Before we get into this, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a peaceful season wherever you're growing from. If you value old-world gardening wisdom, soil-first thinking, and practical methods that actually work, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Now let's talk about a fertilizer so effective, so biologically powerful, that modern agriculture quietly pushed it aside once chemical shortcuts took over. Long before bags of synthetic fertilizer lined store shelves, ancient growers relied on living systems to feed their soil. These weren't crude or accidental methods. They were carefully observed, refined over generations, and powerful enough to sustain entire civilizations. What many people don't realize is that some of these inputs are now discouraged or outright banned in certain agricultural systems, not because they don't work, but because they don't fit into modern industrial models. So why did ancient growers focus on soil life instead of nutrients? Well, ancient farmers didn't really think in terms of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium numbers. Instead, they thought in terms of soil vitality. Crops, you see, were only as strong as the living network beneath them. Fertility, back then, came from microbial activity, decomposition, and slow nutrient cycling, not from forcing plants with soluble salts. One of the most effective fertilizers they used was actually fermented organic matter, especially animal-based and plant-based brews that teamed with bacteria, fungi, enzymes, and organic acids. These weren't compost teas, as we think of them today. They were, in fact, dense, living concentrates designed to inoculate soil, not just feed plants. So the fertilizer that modern systems have really moved away from is fermented biological fertilizer. We're talking about those made from manure, urine, milk byproducts, fish waste, or even aggressive plants like nettle and comfrey. In many commercial farming regulations, these types of inputs are either restricted or, heavily regulated because of concerns about pathogens, odors, or just the variability in their composition. Yet, when they're handled correctly, they are honestly some of the most effective soil builders ever used. One ancient staple was fermented manure slurry. Now, fresh manure was never applied directly to crops. Instead, it was always diluted, fermented, and aged until the microbial populations had stabilized. This process, you see, neutralized harmful organisms while multiplying beneficial ones. The result was a soil inoculant that, fed microbes first and plants second. Fermentation was the key. Raw inputs are unpredictable and, honestly, sometimes dangerous. Fermentation breaks down complex compounds into bioavailable forms while suppressing harmful bacteria through acidity and competition. Ancient growers understood this intuitively, even without microscopes. A simple example used across cultures involved mixing 1 part fresh manure with 5 to 10 parts water, then allowing it to ferment, loosely covered for 7 to 14 days. Once bubbling slowed and the smell shifted from sharp to earthy, it was, diluted again before soil application. This wasn't about feeding plants directly. It was about activating decomposition in the soil itself. When synthetic fertilizers entered agriculture, they offered speed, consistency, and easy transport. They bypassed biology entirely by delivering nutrients directly to plant roots. Over time, soil life declined because it was no longer needed. Fields became dependent on repeat chemical inputs, and ancient biological fertilizers were labeled outdated, unsafe, or inefficient. What was lost was resilience. Ancient systems built soil that improved year after year, Modern systems, on the other hand, often mine soil fertility instead of creating it. That's why, many gardeners today struggle with compacted soil, poor nutrient uptake, and plants that just collapse without constant feeding. Fermented biological fertilizers still outperform many modern products because they restore soil function rather than simply mask problems. When applied correctly, they improve structure, increase nutrient cycling, and support beneficial fungi that protect roots from disease. Gardeners who reintroduce these methods often notice stronger root systems improve drought tolerance and steadier growth rather than those rapid, weak spurts. The soil becomes darker, looser, and more alive. Earthworms return, fungal networks expand, plants stop acting like they're on life support. The reason these fertilizers gained a bad reputation is improper use. Ancient growers never applied them raw, concentrated, or at the wrong time. They respected dilution, fermentation time, and soil conditions. As more gardeners move away from chemical dependency, they're rediscovering that soil is a living system, not just a feeding schedule. Fermented fertilizers fit perfectly into this mindset. They're inexpensive, scalable, and adaptable to any garden size. They also close the nutrient loop. Waste becomes resource, inputs become local. Soil improves instead of degrading. These are principles ancient growers lived by because, they had no alternative. Ironically, they may be exactly what modern gardens need most. What was once dismissed as primitive is now being validated by soil science. Microbial diversity, fungal dominance, and organic acids are no longer fringe ideas. They're at the center of regenerative agriculture. The banned fertilizer was never ineffective. It was simply inconvenient for industrial systems. For home gardeners, this knowledge is freedom. It means healthier soil without dependency. It means understanding why plants thrive instead of guessing. It means stepping into a lineage of growers who worked with nature instead of against it. As we move into a new growing year, remember that the most powerful tools are often the oldest ones. Share this with someone who wants better soil without chemicals, and don't forget to subscribe so we can keep bringing these forgotten methods back to life together. Merry Christmas, and here's to soil that grows richer with every season.